Mr. Ologun, this thing boils back to what a lot of persons, I'm sure, including yourself, have said earlier about building institutions and not uh, great men. That we need great institutions and not great men. But we cannot also undermine the fact that we need men to run the institutions. And if these institutions are built and effective laws set in place to regulate life and the society, like we say that law is for social engineering, we still have men. How do we check, not just checking these men, how can we put all these things that makes us take sides, religious, ethnicity, political party affiliation, and all of that in, becoming a cog in the wheel in carrying out justice?
Purposeful leadership and sincerity. You may build all the institutions. If there is no sincerity, the institutions will fail. You may raise the men. If they are not sincere and genuine, they cannot sustain the institutions. Let me tell you, the Chinese built the wall, the China walls we read about. Great performance. But when the enemies came infiltrating China, they didn't break the wall. They came through the gates. They compromised the people there. So until we change our values of focusing on prosperity for all and not just for a few, we may not be able to get out of where we are. Let me challenge you today, and I'm talking from personal experience. If you want to know where we are as a nation, travel by road from Lagos to Benin City and see what is happening on our roads. You will weep for this nation. And when you try to challenge some of these activities, they will tell you, they reach up to. In this country, some mobile policemen went to the National Assembly and besieged the assembly. All we heard was that the order came from above. Who are those people above? Who are they? We read about. Look, right now, Nigeria is to pay $9.9 billion in a failed
Contract. Oil
contract.
contract.
Fine. A contract that was entered into in 2010 when the late president, former president of Nigeria, Musa Yar'Adua, was ill and the cabal took over. Now we are paying 9.9 billion. Will the government not go after those who led us into that contract and abandon the arbitration? And I hope we know there are other arbitrations now that may also bring the sledgehammer on Nigeria of about $5.3 billion or whatever. So is that how a country is managed? So people just come, run a faceless government, disappear with the allergies. You see former governors submitting themselves to EFCC. They shake hands and smile, drop some of the naira, disappear, they are granted bail. You see, is that how to prosper? These are my big questions. Let's go to Singapore. One thing Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore was to enforce the law. At the time, he was almost labeled a dictator, but he told them, I don't mind, I must fix this nation. And today, Singapore is one of the best places to live and work in the world. In fact, it will amaze you that on a daily basis, waste management is effected in Singapore, and they translate waste to very clean oxygen for people to breathe. You know, the region is prosperous. There are other countries we can make reference to. So we need to visit our values generally. So people just see the opportunity of going into office for becoming big, protecting themselves. Right now, we are discussing the fact that our government is not able to provide 30,000 naira minimum wage, even if it's not reasonable living wage as expected by Section 16 of 1999 Constitution of Nigeria as amended. But then we can buy Land Cruisers of 5 billion for senators, for incoming ministers. So we need to visit our values.
Now that you said, you talked about enforcing the law when Lee Kuan Yew talked about that in Singapore. When coming back to Nigeria and this democracy, the federal government does not have the unilateral authority to enforce law. It must work together with the National Assembly and most especially the judiciary.
There are three arms of government.
Yes.
For checks and balances.
Exactly.
And for synergy.
Yes.
Executive.
Please, let me. Now, in this particular case, are we going to say, will the federal government choose to, does not have the discretion to obey or to disobey the authorities of the judiciary system?
In Nigeria or where?
In Nigeria, I'm talking about in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because if the government is fighting a case and they have a valid evidence against a particular person, and maybe the technicalities of law comes into play, and the judiciary takes a contrary decision that does not augur well with the federal government in dealing with that particular issue.
We have a clear-cut case. The judiciary declared that El Zazaki be released on bail. The executive decided not to release him on bail for national security
Now,
interests.
let me bring it to fraud. Let's bring it to financial fraud.
You see, now,
yes,
we have also the case of the removal of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, how it was clinically implemented. So, where there is a will, there is a way. And that is why some of us are confused about the inconsistency. You see, the Python dance in Abia State was highly successful. So, if you want things done, you can do it. Not so long ago, my amiable president visited Lagos about twice, at least that I witnessed, because I drove down to confirm. And the trailers and tankers were moved off the bridges and the Western Avenue axis up to Apapa. How did that happen? But it is difficult to remove it to allow businesses move. Why are we stampeding the economy of this country? Who are the beneficiaries? And the reports we are having now is that some people are there, whether they are in uniform or not, collecting huge amount of money from the people, which also is an economic drain.
As demurrage?
No! For the tankers, for them to have space, different kinds of scam, despite the fact that there's an executive order to clear that place. And that is one of the symptoms of corruption. Where there is corruption, the words of people in authority are not honored, which is a very
but it has the authority of the big stick to wield.
But where's the big stick? Where will you wield the big stick when those who should be whipped are the ones benefiting? I just told you now. Thank God in heaven that this case of Wadume happened. We condole with the families and pain to my marrows. But who would have been able to confirm some of the allegations of some well-meaning Nigerians who allege collusion between those who should be securing us and the criminal elements? The guy is confessing now. Many are trying to deny. This is why we have issues as a people. And it drops at the table of leadership. The reason for having a government in any society is to regulate the activities of that society.
Mr. Ologun, I want to take you down somewhere. Now, there are accusations from concerned Nigerians, and in fact, it has become a norm in the polity that when a particular government or any government is in power, when any person that is affiliated to that government or it's a member of a political party that is in government, and when they are found wanting, they are not being dealt with. Now, what could be the cause of that? Why, in that case, is it not a promotion of criminal activities? And if it's same government, whether government that has existed before, any government, when we have such cases, where do we have the main authorities? You know, just of recent, Donald Trump was having problem with the Secretary of the Treasury in the United States because he made some comments. Why do we have systems that checkmate itself? Even the same political party checkmating itself, checkmating themselves on authority. We don't have it here. And our system is built to replicate these systems that are functional over there.
Because we probably have a virus-infected version of democracy. I like using clear references. Now, the joke going round is that Godswill Akpabio was being prosecuted or maybe investigated by EFCC, and Festus Keyamo was the government prosecutor. Today, Godswill Akpabio is a minister. The prosecutor then is Minister of State in Nigeria. The chairman of a political party came out and said, all you need to do is come to our party and your sins are forgiven. We are talking about justice. There's a difference between judgment and justice. These are the realities of our time. But having said that, what we have done in exercise of our mandate under the Constitution that says that sovereignty belongs to the people is to go out there, vote. And we have even come to the point in Nigeria that we can contest the credibility, the fairness, and the liberal freedom of our electoral processes.
Who can take it up in that case? Where
leadership.
Apart from leadership,
Yes.
who else can take it up?
Who else can take it up?
Yes.
The people. But you can see what has happened to revolution now. A call for good governance. You see, and I listened to Senator Dino Melaye on video, who said that those who are perhaps manipulating the affairs of this country, they are just in the bracket of about 5% of the whole population. But that they make bragado and people think they are stronger than they are. But I pray that we will not come to the point of Sudan where people mobilize before we begin to enjoy good governance in this country. That those who have the privilege now to manage the system, we call themselves together and ask a simple question. Are the people rejoicing or mourning? Should the people rejoice or be mourning? Because whether we like it or not, leadership is transient. Human leadership is transient. From the First Republic to the Fourth Republic where we are now, many have led Nigeria. Talk about ministers and all of them. You see, and I have said it, where you project the interest of a few and you neglect the interest of the majority, the insecurity of the majority will threaten the security of the few.
Okay.
And that is what we are beginning to have now.
Yeah.